An hour later Lizzie woke up needing to pee. Remembering here she was, she simply relaxed and peed into her diaper. She then sat up and looked around. The living room looked the same as always. Her mother was nowhere to be found. So Lizzie sat up and began to play with her toys again. The sad part being she was intellectually too smart for them and soon grew bored. So she just sat in her playpen, sucking on her pacifier and waited for her mother to come get her. A few minutes later Sandra walked into the room. Lizzie looked at her and smiled. "How is my little girl doing?" Sandra asked. "Okay," Lizzie answered. "Ready for lunch?" "Yes, please." Sandra helped her daughter out of her playpen and both of them headed for the kitchen. Soon Lizzie was back in her high chair, with a bib on, waiting to be fed lunch. Sandra went over to the cabinets to get a couple jars of baby food. She settled on a jar of meat, vegetables, and turkey and a jar of strained peas. Sitting down in front of her daughter she began to feed her. Lizzie took each bite and relished the feeling. Baby food tasted different. It was not as wonderful as she had hoped it would be. But it did not taste that bad. Then came the peas. Lizzie thought for sure she was gonna throw up but thankfully didn't. After the lunch of baby foods, Sandra offered Lizzie a bottle of apple juice to wash it down with. Lizzie had never been so glad to have a bottle in her life. She drank to her heart's content. Sandra meanwhile made herself a quick lunch and then cleaned up the kitchen. Sandra sat at the table and looked at her daughter. What were they gonna do this afternoon? It was while looking at her that Sandra had an idea. "Care to sunbath this afternoon?" Sandra asked her daughter. "Sure," her daughter said without thinking it through. "Then let's get you ready to go outside," Sandra said matter-of-factly. Sandra helped her daughter out of her high chair and both of them walked up to her room. Once there Sandra had Lizzie lay down on her bed and proceeded to change her diaper. This time however, Sandra changed her into a cloth diaper and plastic pants. Once done she stood her up and grabbed her by hand to lead her to the outside. "What about pants, mother?" Lizzie asked, noticing her clothing. "Babies do not need pants, so neither do you. Besides we are going to the backyard, no one will see anything," Sandra informed her. Lizzie shrugged and followed her mother's lead. Soon they were outside in the hot sun and laying down on towels to sunbath. Lizzie closed her eyes and let the new feelings she had wash over her. Here she was outside in nothing but a diaper and a shirt. This was a strange feeling. She felt very weird. True babies don't care what they wear and neither should she, but something bothered her about it. She also felt the difference between the cloth diaper and her disposable ones. These felt different and the plastic pants made her feel a little hot. But this was what she wanted. She wanted to be a baby and was learning what that meant today. Sandra looked at her daughter and smiled. Lizzie was in for a treat, that was for sure. Reaching over to her side, Sandra grabbed a bottle of juice and handed it to Lizzie, who took it without asking. It was a sight to see for sure. Soon Lizzie felt very tired and fell into a deep sleep. Sandra just lay next to her daughter taking in the sun. This had to be the best part of the day. Lizzie laid on the blanket drinking in the sun's rays. In her mind was only one thought. This is the life. Nothing to do but lay here and relax. Lizzie felt her mother want to put something in her mouth. Lizzie just parted her lips and felt the pacifier enter her mouth. She began to suck to her heart's content. The day just passed away within this blissful feeling. The only thing that bothered her was the plastic pants. They seemed to keep a lot of heat, making Lizzie feel very hot. Sandra looked at her daughter and smiled. She looked so peaceful. Sandra did not want this moment to end either. Mother and daughter moments like this were few and far between. Sandra let out a sigh of contentment. She looked over at her sleeping daughter and remembered times gone by.